Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Adventures of Dan in London. It has been a while since I made a video, and that is largely because this week pretty much took on the tone of the day I told you about last week, where our sponsor was displeased with us. I mean, all week we were trying to figure out what he wanted, get caught up, or as caught up as we could. We had a lot to do. Some things were finally more or less cleared up, which is good, but still a struggle. See, at night it doesn't really matter which way I face, but when it's actually daytime I have to consider where the light's coming from. So the week started off and we had a deadline on Wednesday. Now, I know Wednesday isn't exactly the start of the week, but it was a first draft of our pretty much complete final paper, which takes a while to do. So most of Monday we were doing that. I think we met with our sponsor at one point on Monday to try to make sure communication was still happening correctly, or more or less correctly. I don't remember though. But anyway, so a lot of Monday we were spending time working on this paper. And so Monday night, or Monday when we got home from work, we were like, hey, let's just pound out the paper for as long as we can so that we don't have to stay up ridiculous hours on Tuesday. So naturally we stayed up ridiculous hours on Monday and ridiculous hours on Tuesday because it's a freaking 70-page paper so far. We're not even completely done with it yet. I mean, we finished what we had to finish for the deadline, but there's just a little bit more that we still have to do. So we're doing this paper, and there's still data from our survey that we haven't quite been able to reduce and categorize yet. So there were a couple parts that we had to leave out so we could put back in later, and just the tone of the week was our sponsor running us around in circles, just trying to we're just trying to figure out what he wanted. But the side story, the counterplot, is that our advisors are so unbelievably on our page, and that they had no idea where this came from when our sponsor suddenly got all negative, and they're still fighting for us, and it's just, it's so incredible. We're so thankful for that. But so, we have this data that we haven't finished evaluating, and we sent in the draft to our sponsors, and or not our sponsors, our advisors, and we were like, hey, we don't have all this stuff done yet, but we have all the rest of it, and we can fix it all up later, put it all together, and then send it to you if that's alright. And they sent us an email back, and they were like, yeah, that's fine, we totally understand, you're being spun around in circles right now, you know, you can focus your energy on what you need at a given time, and just as long as you get it in within reasonable time, that's totally fine. Yes. So that was nice. Now, on Wednesday morning, we'll get to work, and usually we work on the first floor. A couple weeks ago, I think, I just kind of gave you a little view coming out of one of the meeting rooms at those big purple couches. That's where we usually work. But to appease our sponsor, or in an effort to, we figured we'd work on the 7th floor, which is the floor that he's actually on, at just one of the open tables in his section. So we're doing that, and he hasn't come in yet. So we're waiting for him to come in, and we eventually do see him, and then Julia and I go over to talk to him about the focus group that we were going to hold yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, Friday. You know, logistics. Over the weekend he had been asking for the questions that we were going to use for that, and basically a focus group is just, once we have an amount of data and we want to say, alright, we're going to take you people and we're going to ask you some questions, get a conversation started, see what you can come up with, see what extra data and clarification we can get. So we were trying to put that all together, and our sponsor was getting pretty impatient with the questions because the questions had to be approved by him and his boss before they could decide if it was worth it to have it. So we sent in the questions, and then when we talked to him on Wednesday morning, we were checking in to see what he thought, because he hadn't gotten back to us yet. And we emailed him Tuesday evening, but we did get an email from him after that but not addressing that. Anyway, Julia and I went to go talk to him, and so it started off with, I don't think the focus group is going to be worth it. Him saying that, not me. I was totally on board with the focus group. And so we were just kind of taken aback at first because for the entire term he was so just emphatic about having these focus groups and how great they're going to be. So when he said that, we were just a little bit surprised, and we kind of wanted to get an idea of what he was thinking. So we talked about it, and he mentioned how the first couple questions we had were basically just the survey questions again, because the first couple questions were reactions to the survey. We wanted to gauge the employees' reactions to the survey, because one of the things we found in the survey is that people don't know as much as they think they do. Like, on a scale of 72% of people think they know what they're doing and 11% do. So he thought that those questions were unnecessary because gauging employee opinions and reactions is not important because it's a management decision. So then the other questions that we had, so I just went back and checked the email because I actually forgot what the other questions were. I found out that we actually sent them on Monday afternoon, actually about noon-ish. Monday night, it was almost midnight. So we sent them then, and so we must have this conversation Tuesday morning, and he hadn't had a chance to see them yet. But he had, because he knew what we were talking about. Anyway, we were talking to him, and the first couple questions were staff reaction to the survey, which he was having none of. Then the other two questions that we had were possible suggestions that the staff might have to, help the staff recycle, which he also didn't think they were useful, because again, anything that's going to be implemented is a management decision. So it doesn't matter what the staff thinks. In helping the staff recycle. So ultimately, out of that conversation, we decided that we were not going to do the focus group. So on one hand, that's easier for us because it's one less thing to do in this week of just piles of work. So we're not going to do the focus groups. But it was also just one of the most infuriating conversations I've ever had, because we were trying to figure out what he wanted, because that's why we're here. We're here to help the Croydon Council figure out a better recycling system. We get project experience out of it. It fulfills a graduation requirement. But really, it's not our project. I mean, we help. We're helping them. They are the focus. We're doing this for them. We're not doing this for us. So we want to know what they want to get out of this. And halfway through the conversation, when he's shot down all of our questions, we're like, okay, well, what are you looking for out of these? And he was like, no, let's turn it around a bit. What do you guys want to get out of the focus groups? Well, personally, I would like to know how to make millions of dollars. If you could teach me how to ride a unicycle, that'd be nice. I've always wanted to juggle people. What do we want to get out of it? Maybe. Someone who has the power to change the recycling program, and will, even though I'd cost a little bit of money at first. So I sent a pretty angrily worded email to my team and to my advisors, just as a rant. I wasn't trying to insult anybody. Well, I wasn't trying to get anything productive out of it. I just needed to kind of... So Tuesday is the day where we have our meeting with our advisors and our sponsor all together. And so I had sent that email in the morning, and I didn't expect a response from them because they have their meetings with a few teams that day. But they got there. They got there in the afternoon, and they walked in with this complete and total look of, I feel ya, I'm sorry. And that was really satisfying. At one point during the week, we decided that since we had a room booked for the focus groups, and the room had a screen, we would take the time that we were going to do the focus groups and because of the complete and utter incompetence that we all exhibit, we should do our best to just scrape up something so that we can show our sponsor a mock presentation of what we might do on Tuesday, just to see if there's really any hope at all. So, when he told us he wanted to do this, he was like, so put together a presentation, but put in way more information than you're actually going to have in the presentation so that I can help you guys narrow it down. We're pretty sure that just meant that he thought if we made a presentation it would be like 4 slides long because that's all the information we have. I don't know. But, so our sponsor was there, our advisors were there, and 2 of our sponsor's colleagues were there. And that was really, really good, because if it was just us and our sponsor, we wouldn't have gotten any real feedback. I mean, we would have gotten some, but he's just not a very clear person. I mean, he can give us a lot of information and a lot of feedback, but it's not always the easiest to understand or like really know what he's trying to get at. But he also, maybe it's not fair to assume this, maybe it's completely fair to assume this, but I believe that if it was just us and him, he wouldn't have given us very much feedback, but he would have been just very displeased with the whole thing, and we would have felt like, what do we do? You know, our final presentation is in 4 days, what do we do? But since everyone was there, we got really good feedback from one of his colleagues. Another one who was actually the guy who was originally supposed to be our sponsor, he seemed to really like it, and our advisors were both very impressed with it. And we got a decent amount of feedback, which is good. We're going to incorporate it, and I think it's going to be a good presentation. But just having those extra people there, I think, made it harder for him to have contrived displeasure with it. So I think it kind of made him have a more honest reaction, which was nice. So yeah, we did a mock presentation yesterday, and then we did still a bunch more work on Friday, because no matter how much work we do, there isn't any less still to do. Then last night I went out to Thai food with the Gravity Falls group. We were going to try to see Phantom of the Opera, but by the time we got there, the tickets were... the cheap out-of-theater last-minute tickets were done. They were sent back to the theater, and then when we went to the theater, there was no way we were going to be able to all sit together, so we decided to scrap that idea. We went to Thai food, and then we went back home, and we watched Zombieland, which was fun. And that also contributed to why I was not going to make a video, because I was just decompressing from the week. But yeah, so here it is now. I am now going to remove this beast from my face, and I'm probably going to be working on the paper throughout the day and the presentation. But I will try to catch up with you, maybe tonight, but I can't imagine too much will happen today. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But whenever it does, I will see you then. Stay tuned.